Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and I'm also a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I wanted to go over what motivates an avoidant to commit. And it's very important that the person that you're actually in a romantic relationship with, or connected to, or romantic with is an avoidant, because this will probably not work if they are not an avoidant. Doesn't mean it will work. Like, even if they are an avoidant, it might not work, but it's much more likely that it will, because these are some of the wounds that they directly have with their attachment issue prior to you being in a relationship with them. And so it's really healing some of the things they struggle with internally, which heals those attachment wounds, which is why it's going to help them commit. It's usually a combination of these things. And so an avoidant doesn't need all of these things to change. They could just need one of them. And I do want you guys to keep that in mind, because I know a lot of you guys, sometimes you guys get hung up with some of the things I say. I understand. And you guys take everything extremely particular and sometimes very specific, to which it comes from anxiety sometimes. And you might think if I'm saying something, it's very like all of these things need to be in order, otherwise they don't like you, or it's never going to happen if X, Y, and Z doesn't happen. I just give general advice and perspectives, not even advice, general information, really. This is not even advice. It's just some things that I see and I like to share it with you. But just keep that in mind. Take everything with a grain of salt. The first one is, when you change or heal something about yourself that helps the relationship, this can actually motivate avoidance to change as well, particularly if you declare that this is something you want to do and it's something that they have brought up as an issue. This is a really good one, and it really helps avoidance to feel loved and cared for, which helps them feel motivated. So I'll give you an example. Let's say we have a dismissive avoidant male and a fearful avoidant female. This is a really good example because it happens quite a bit. For example, with fearful avoidance, particularly, it doesn't have to be, it's not about gender, but it's a little bit more particular if the fearful avoidant leans anxious, but it doesn't have to be. What they do is they bottle up their emotions because they feel like their emotions are going to be invalidated. They also feel ashamed by them. And so they bottle them up for their own reasons, typically their avoidant side. And then something triggers their anxious side, and then it goes out of control and they kind of crash out. So that's pretty common with fearful avoidance. Dismissive avoidance, they feel very calm and relaxed and happy when the fearful avoidant is bottling things up. These are two people in this example who are not healed yet. And so a normal person shouldn't feel like the way a dismissive avoidant does. If they have some awareness, usually they will still ask their partner if there's something going on, or they can kind of tell. Dismissive avoidants cannot tell. And so they almost feel like this is a good sign because of their own issues. And then the fearful avoidant will crash out and be very anxious. And the dismissive avoidant will think that something is horribly wrong, or that their fearful avoidant partner has a lot of issues with controlling their emotions. Or the dismissive avoidant will get very triggered and they'll crash out, and then they feel guilty about yelling or whatever they did. And now both of them feel really bad, and now they both shut down and they try to avoid it. So that's a common cycle. And so one way to break that cycle is if the fearful avoidant says, I'm going to work on my emotions, and when I'm feeling upset, I'm going to tell you a little bit more ahead of time, or I'm going to say it more softly so it doesn't you don't crash out. But I also don't want to be anxious, so I want to manage my emotions better. By saying it like that, you are mentioning to your partner that you're going to try and change, but you also prompted them to change themselves as well. But it doesn't necessarily sound like that, at least from an avoidance perspective. It doesn't sound very triggering if you say it like that. And so it actually does motivate them to heal, which does slowly and at one point automatically, as they continue to heal, get comfortable committing. And so that's the first one. The next one is when you speak up for what you need. It's going to be when rapport is built. You don't want to do it right away in the beginning of the relationship, because with other people, secure individuals, that's when you're supposed to bring it up. But with avoidance, they don't bring up what they need in the beginning, right? A lot of them are very they're not who they really are. It's almost like they wear a mask. Like, you know how in high school, sometimes you're not your full real self because otherwise people will ask questions or be annoying. I don't know. So you don't want to do that because it's just annoying, right? You don't want people in your space. That's how avoidants feel with relationships. I don't even know if that made sense, but to me that made sense. And so avoidants kind of act way more romantic and more over the top because they don't want people to bug them for who they really are, because they don't know you. But once they decide, okay, I like you, so I'm going to be my real self, they don't need to be fake around you, but you see a huge difference, or you think they were love bombing you. Not necessarily. They're just trying to be what they think they should be so that they don't get a lot of questions and comments and whatever it is. And so they don't realize what that looks like for you. So that's why bringing up what you need during that stage won't make sense, because they will probably think that you don't like them for who they are, or they haven't fully introduced who they are because they wear that mask, or it just might not land because they have their walls really up. And so it's a little bit better to bring up what you need after that stage, usually a couple months after, to be honest, to build rapport. And then during that conversation, you mention what you need, but you're not expecting it right away. But you don't want to shrink your stance on it. So for an example, let's say an avoidant cancels on you a lot. Really common in the first year or second year, but way more common in the first year. What they typically cancel, and usually it's because they don't like the time that you're choosing, which sounds really specific and weird, but it is true. So for example, if you're trying to hang out on the weekday after work, they don't like that because maybe they need decompression time, or maybe they do that on the weekend. Some avoidants are like that. A lot of them are like that. And so that could be the real reason why they're canceling, but they don't realize that they need to explain that because a lot of them don't have good social skills, to be honest. And so you can figure that out, and then they should communicate that as well. But if you want them to be more comfortable committing and changing this, mention that you expect that canceling should stop, and be honest and logical about it. You can even say, I noticed that 50% of the time you cancel on me, and that's really frustrating. I don't want to see that. What can I do to reduce that cancellation? I want to work with you, and I don't mind if I need to adjust, but I just want this fixed at some point. And we can talk about it later, but I'm just letting you know my stance. That will help them because it's clear, it's truthful, but you're not, shrinking your stance as well. And sometimes they can be triggered by it, but don't let their trigger scare you, because if they can't even reach this point after a year or two, the relationship's probably not going to last very long. You have to sometimes push avoidance to a certain, like a uncomfortable situation. And that's with everybody, not even with attachment styles, just in general. You have to sometimes be in an uncomfortable situation to grow. The next one is you do tend to focus on harmony and positivity in the relationship. That can really motivate an avoidant. Acknowledging how they feel, acknowledging how you feel, appreciating when they tell you something, being honest and harmonious can really help. The next one is you bring positive variables in their life. This one is one of the most significant ones. And I'm going to try and explain it, but it really depends on the person. This could be anything. But let's just say the standard is you bring love and companionship. That's a standard. Or like one of the common variables being brought. That's a better word. Now, you also bring, let's say, an intellectual stimulation. And also... Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. And you also bring new perspectives. And so those types of aspects also help with them to feel like you don't just bring love and companionship, because in an avoidance mind, that's not that important. But if you also bring intellectual discussions, as well as new perspectives, as well as new ways for them to do things, novel experiences, they start feeling like maybe you add a lot more than just love and companionship. And that makes a really big difference. It actually motivates them to commit, because in their mind, they don't want to leave something that benefits them. And the last one is something happened in their life that's unrelated to you that makes them realize they have things they need to work on. This can be anything. And so let's go ahead and summarize, and then we'll wrap it up. The first one is when you change or heal something about yourself, that helps them commit. The next one is when you speak up when you need something. You don't say you expect it right away, but you do expect it to some extent, and you're willing to work on that as long as they're willing to work on it, and you don't shrink your stance. The third one is you focus on harmony and positivity within the relationship more than negativity. You bring positive variables to their life, a plethora of them, depending on you and your partner, whatever that may be. And the last one is something happens to them that's unrelated that makes them realize they need to change. As I've mentioned, they don't need all of these things. Just a couple is fine. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.